Freud was definitely, he was an atheist.
He didn't have a concept of a God complex as a psychological concept. That came along with Jung.
I think, if I understand it correctly, I think that's right.
So how did Freud handle the idea of the encounter of his patients with his patients and the almost universal religious ideas he must have run across? He didn't see that as a complex?
No, he just had a reductive approach to it. If a patient brought something like that to him, he would reduce it down to the Oedipus, to the Oedipus complex. He literally would. Okay, and so the truth is, we all have an Oedipus complex or an electric complex within us. Okay, we all do. Okay, because simply put, it's not about having sex with your mother. It's about going back to the origin. Okay, in other words, you're either becoming more and more adult and more responsible for yourself and what happens in your society, or you're regressing back to wanting to suck your thumb. So what happens? Right. So you see it in American old people's homes, right? People finally regress to the point where their kids can't take care of them, and so they're taken back into the womb of the nursing home, and that's basically what it is. So you develop out through your lifetime. You learn the basics up through high school and college and whatever it is, and you become an adult and you become a contributing member of society as long as you can, but in the end, you start going backward, okay? And some people go backward faster than others. I mean, people who, there are plenty of people who want to go home to mama, and there's plenty of soldiers who die on the battlefield. The last word out of their mouth is mother, right? Exactly. Okay. And so.
So that's a regression.
That's a regression, right?
Back to the womb.
Back to the womb, and that's the Oedipus complex.
So Freud would not have never. It'd be interesting to see the correspondence, but Freud couldn't really get over that hump where he could see.
Freud couldn't get away from
the idea of a psychic fact.
Right. Freud was into science. He was a neurologist, and he was a scientist, and he couldn't make the leap to psychic facts. If I understand Jung's comments.
He was so hung up on everything being sexual.
Well, he was very hung up on that, and that was the scene in A Dangerous Method, right? Where Otto Gross makes the comment. I think the reason Freud talks about sexuality all the time is he isn't getting any.
He was one with all the kids.
Yeah, but he who did he tell? He told Sabina Spielrein that his marriage was amortized when he was 34, and so he didn't have sex with his wife after 34. How's that going to work, right? How's that work?
Sounds like a theory to me.
Yeah.
Everything has to do with sex. Why is it everything I think of has to do with sex?
All my theories.
But Jung always gave Freud tremendous credit. I mean, everything that I've written, everything that I've read that Jung wrote about Freud in later years was always complimentary and deferential. And he said, I would be in Freud's camp today, except for the fact of his materialism. He insisted that everything had to be answered scientifically, which is the same problem we have with Neil deGrasse Tyson right now. Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan before him said that everything had to be answered in the physical world. And that's not true at all. Okay, and so as long as you have that prejudice, you're not going to see the fact that there is a whole universe in your psyche.
Well, that's that whole sterility and perfection idea, really, isn't it?
Perfection, how do you mean?
Well, materialism being that it's this perfect idea of everything that's tangible. It always has to be tangible, and that leads to it's sterile. It has no feminine aspect to it.
What? Yeah.
Well, what got me going through college was everything, the measure of everything was physics. Everything had to be reduced to physics.
Mm-hmm.
And if you couldn't, what is physics? Physicality. And
Right.
if you couldn't reduce it to physics, it wasn't, that was the religion. And if you wanted to get a grant, you had to be able to reduce it to physics.
Right.
Even in the arts, you had to find a way to reduce it to where it was.
Right.
What school? That's just Western thinking. That's just.
Yeah,
if
I mean,
went to get a grant from,
it's just the
Arts
so-called,
Council or something.
it's the so-called Enlightenment, which, once scientific method got going.
And that's it. The method. That's what
Yeah.
they kept repeating everywhere.
Right. So it was the scientific method, and it wasn't enlightenment at all. It was just a sighting, basically. But it went on for. It's now going on for 600 years, since 1500.
It seems to be getting stronger.
Well, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But now this group, these videos, is a pushback on it, saying, oh, by the way, you cannot explain everything in the physical world.